as Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese Premier Li Qiang wrapped up separate meetings in Southeast Asia this week. The two partners in the BRICS economic bloc encountered a region keen to join a group seen as a hedge against Western-led institutions. Thailand, a US treaty ally, recently announced its intention to join BRICS, a group consisting of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. During an interview with Chinese media ahead of Li's visit to Malaysia, Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim declared his intention to apply to the bloc after it doubled in size this year by luring Global South nations, partly by offering access to financing, but also by providing a political venue independent of Washington's influence. Thailand, a US treaty ally, last month announced its own bid to join BRICS, named after members Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. The bloc represents a South-South cooperative framework which Thailand has long desired to be a part of, Foreign Minister Maris Sangiampongsa told reporters last week. For countries seeking to mitigate the economic risks of intensifying US-China competition, joining BRICS is an attempt to straddle some of those tensions. In Southeast Asia, many nations depend economically on trade with China, while also simultaneously welcoming the security presence and investment Washington provides. But BRICS membership is also a way of signaling increasing frustration with the US-led international order and key institutions that remain firmly in the control of Western powers, like the World Bank and International Monetary Fund. Some of us, including people like myself, think that we need to find solutions to the unfair international financial and economic architecture, former Malaysian Foreign Minister Saifuddin Abdullah said in an interview. So BRICS would probably be one of the ways to balance some things. For Putin and Chinese leader Xi Jinping, the interest in BRICS also shows their success at pushing back at attempts by the US and its allies to isolate them more broadly over the war in Ukraine and military threats to Taiwan, the Philippines, South Korea, and Japan. Ukraine leader Volodymyr Zelensky struggled to convince Asian nations to back his peace summit in Switzerland earlier this month, and Putin this week signed a defense pact with North Korea, while warning he had the right to arm US adversaries around the world. A club that for years consisted of just 5 members expanded with the inclusion of Iran, the United Arab Emirates, Ethiopia, and Egypt this January. That was a push largely driven by China as it tries to increase its clout on the global stage. Another Southeast Asian nation, Indonesia, was considered an early favorite to join last year before President Joko Widodo indicated he would not be rushed into the decision. Also present was Vietnam, which last year upgraded ties with Washington in a move seen as pushback on Beijing's rising influence in the region. Hanoi has been following the grouping's progress with keen interest, as state broadcaster Voice of Vietnam put it last month. Vietnam is always ready to participate in and contribute actively to global and regional multilateral mechanisms, Foreign Ministry spokesperson Pham Thu Hang said at the time. After this year's expansion, BRICS plans to invite non-member countries to take part in its next summit in the Russian city of Kazan in October. Just hosting the event gives Moscow a chance to showcase to the world that it isn't totally isolated by Western opposition to the war in Ukraine. A State Department official said the US is aware of the interest in BRICS by Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam, adding that multilateral blocs should further United Nations Charter principles, such as respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity. The potential benefits for joining BRICS go beyond geopolitics. $33 billion. The bloc's members have agreed to pool $100 billion of foreign currency reserves, which they can lend to each other during emergencies. The group also founded the New Development Bank, a World Bank-modeled institution that has approved almost $33 billion of loans, mainly for water, transport, and other infrastructure projects since it began operations in 2015. That investment pool would be useful in Southeast Asia, where official development finance dwindled to a low of $26 billion in 2022, according to a report this month by the Sydney-based Lowy Institute. Another draw to membership, Malaysia's Saifuddin said, is the residual negative sentiment toward institutions like the IMF, which pushed austerity measures, sometimes blamed in the region, for worsening the economic hardship caused by the Asian financial crisis in the late 1990s. There is increasingly less space for smaller countries to maneuver, Ong Keng Yong, the former Secretary General of ASEAN, said in an interview. By joining organizations like BRICS, countries are signaling that they want to be friendly to all sides, not just to the US and its allies.